I'm Frank Tamburino with the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Chamber of Commerce. Connections is an annual event we do to introduce business people to other business people and impart ideas and concepts that they can use in business to be more successful. Basically, the Chamber exists for 4 different reasons, is what we found out over the years: lead, advocate, network, and promote. So leadership, we've got leadership programs. We're training tomorrow's leaders. Current leaders are, within on the board and other, prominent positions within the organization. Advocacy, we try to make sure we got a good business climate here. So we do a lot outside of things like this, which is a networking opportunity in terms of, keeping up on government affairs and regulations. Promotion, we help promote the community. We help businesses promote themselves. And then networking. A lot of people join specifically because they want to meet other people in business, other potential customers, other partners. So that's what Connections is all about. Trying to, again, make those networking connections between people. And whether it's, again, just a simple, how are you? Here's a business card. You can connect later, or whether there's some more in-depth discussion, which there typically is in an event like this, where, I need a good, you've got a good, let's talk about it a little bit later and maybe do some business.
We really want to have a discussion around more the focus on recruiting and talent acquisition, and how we've got several great organizations and representatives from those organizations here to help share what their organizations are doing, their efforts, more on the recruiting and talent acquisition front. And the main focus here is that people are so important to every organization, and having the right people in the right jobs is critical for success. And so I pulled some stats last night on our current unemployment rate. National unemployment rate is at 4.2%. Current state unemployment is at 3.8%. And then we've got our current Harrisonburg unemployment is at 3.9%. So we're talking about a very competitive labor market all across the board. And if you start getting into technical positions, very specialized positions, it's even more so. What I'll do is I'd like to introduce our panelists today, where we can give a little bit of a detail on their background and why they're here. We've got some questions that we'll go through, and then we'll give some time at the end for a Q&A. So our first panelist, Jessica Brown. Jessica Brown received her bachelor's in management and master's in human resource development from James Madison University. She began her career in the hospitality industry working for Vail Resorts in Colorado, then transitioned to HR shortly thereafter, where she has been working in some capacity ever since. For the past 8 years, she has worked in the HR department at Genzabar, a computer software company headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, with a local office in downtown Harrisonburg. The Harrisonburg office has doubled in size over the past few years, so recruiting has been a large focus for them. Jessica manages all aspects of HR here locally, from benefits to employee relations to recruiting and payroll, but specializes in compensation management. So welcome, Jessica. Then we have Sandra Quigg. Sandra Quigg has been promoting positive social outcomes for most of her career, including her current position as Director of Organizational Sustainability for Friendship Industries and its affiliate Able Solutions. In this position, Sandra focuses on organizational planning, outcomes, and leadership, and externally focusing on the company's impact. Her work at Friendship Industries Able Solutions benefits the community by providing jobs and skills to persons with disabilities and other barriers to employment. Her first job at Friendship Industries was to raise the money needed for our new facility at 801 Friendship Drive. A graduate of the University of Richmond, she has worked in for-profit and not-for-profits and finds working in social enterprise the perfect mix. Her breadth of experience includes research, grant writing, project management, major gift fundraising, business development, and organizational planning. She has a strong appreciation for aesthetics, community, and place. Therefore, Sandra and her husband moved to Old Town Harrisonburg into a house that needs constant repair. She lives there with her husband, who is the help and the hired help in repairing the house. Their 3 teenagers and their dog Nick. And last but not least, we have Sandy Hernandez. Sandy Hernandez works at DuPont Community Credit Union and the Development Department. She's a certified financial counselor and focuses on teaching financial education and building relationships within the community. She is chair of the Diversity Council for the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Chamber of Commerce and recently joined the board of directors for New Bridges Immigrant Resource Center. Sandy is passionate about promoting diversity and inclusion and hopes to one day help other young women navigate the business world. Sandy was born and raised in Mexico City and moved to Harrisonburg when she was 12. She enjoys cultural studies, trying new foods, listening to NPR, and taking walks with her 5-year-old schnoodle, Lincoln. So now that you know our panelists and you know a little bit more detail, what I'd like to do is give each of you an opportunity just to give a summary on your organization's current focus on recruiting, talent acquisition, maybe some of the challenges that you're experiencing right now within the labor market we have, and then we've got some set questions that I'll go into first. So Jessica, I'll give you the floor and you can head us off.
Oh boy.
First,
Okay.
tell us your dog's name.
Okay, I've got a dog named Cole. He's a black lab. He's really sweet. Okay. Anyways, hello everybody. So I went to a recruiting conference in San Francisco 2 years ago, and all the big tech giants were there. Google, Facebook, Amazon, so I was way out of my league. However, I learned a great deal about recruiting, but something that struck me there and sort of started us down a different path was that one of the opening speakers said, if you're not thinking about millennials, you need to be. And so we have shifted our focus onto them. And it sort of happened, as Joel mentioned, our local office here has doubled in size. So it was not intentional to go out and target millennials. However, that has naturally occurred because they are the labor force. I just read that they just took over as the largest demographic of the workforce. They just passed Generation X. Which anyone else here in Gen X? We just get such a bad rap. I mean, I just feel so overlooked my whole life. Like, all the focus was on the boomers, now all the focus is on the millennials.
That's why we're a cynical group.
That's why we're called Gen X. So they have surpassed us in the workforce, and they're saying by 2025, they will make up 75% of the labor market. So I think when you think of millennials, naturally what comes to mind are some negative connotations. They're lazy, they're entitled, they're disloyal, short attention spans, move around a lot. But what I've learned over the past couple years while working with them and trying to recruit them is actually the opposite. They have some amazing characteristics that we really should be trying to engage versus fighting them on it. And so we've made some changes at Genzabar. I'll just go over a few short things that we have done. And then some things that we should be doing in order to capture this market. And one caveat there, we are in desperate need of software engineers. That is one of the hottest jobs in the market today, and it is very hard to fill. So therefore, we need to pull out all the stops when it comes to recruiting. So at the same conference that I referenced earlier, something else very interesting they said, we asked millennials to rate the top 10 most important things to them in a job. The 10th thing, the least important thing, was their salary. So something struck me that he said, if you are offering them higher salaries, you are literally throwing money away because that's not what they want and that's not what's attracting them. What they want, most importantly, is work-life balance. So some things that we've done at Genzabar include flexible work schedules, very important here in the future to offer these types of things. We have a casual dress code and culture. I don't know if it was there when you came for the ribbon cutting, but we have a ping pong table. Now that sounds kind of funny, but it has gone a very long way with them, and they love it, and they're up constantly playing. So, little things like that you don't think about. But obviously, the flexibility, the casual dress, the remote options, the option to work from home maybe 1 or 2 days a week. Those are things that they want. They're also very health conscious, so we've implemented some healthy snacks. We've replaced the sodas in our vending machine with LaCroix. Is anyone else here on the LaCroix wagon? Because I know, like, I have an addiction. So those are some simple things that we've done to try to enhance our work-life balance. We could be doing so much more. The types of things that these companies were describing in the big tech giants were unbelievable. Like, say 20% of your time is your time at work. So you can use 20% of your day to do anything that you want to work on aside from work. Things like that just, very innovative, but I don't think we're there quite yet. A couple other things we've done, the interview process. We need to keep it short and sweet. Remember, they have short attention spans. They're also extremely tech savvy. So we have implemented a new system called HireVue, which is perfectly aligns with what the millennials are looking for, and it's a digital interview process. So what it does is sends them a link. They can click on it on their own time, any time of day that they want. They can do it in the middle of the night, whatever, and record their interview. It then gets returned to us, and we can watch it. This has really cut down on the interview process, the length of time. Because you can see right away, more than a phone screen, with this digital interview, you can see the way they carry themselves. You can see their verbal communication skills and things like that you aren't able to pick up over the phone. So we've been able to eliminate a lot of people without having to waste their time bringing them in or waste our manager's time with the interview. Another thing we did, which was very important and critical to our recruiting efforts, is that we recently just switched from Monster to Career Builder. Career Builder auto posts to things like Indeed and Glassdoor, so it's farther reaching. The millennial applicants are using multiple sites to apply, so we've been able to pick up a lot more of them in their search. And since we started using Career Builder over Monster, our applications have doubled. Our cost of hire has decreased because we have to pay so much less to keep those jobs posted. Millennials are also very service-minded. Volunteering is very important to them. So we've started to emphasize our volunteer policy. We've always had one, and basically it's stated you've got 1 day a year to volunteer. It was just sort of a unknown thing that was, in the deep dark handbook that nobody reads. I think we had 5 people in the company use it per year. So we've started promoting that volunteer day. We added it to our time off system. So when they go in to enter their time off, it appears there as one of their categories that they can use. Again, could be doing so much more. Some of these other tech companies are giving 4 days a quarter. They're donating millions of dollars to charity, but again, it's the little things that we're working towards. Another thing we've done is Glassdoor management. Who here has heard of Glassdoor? Okay, if you haven't heard of Glassdoor, go on Glassdoor. This is what they are using. It's sort of like the Rank My Professor thing that the undergrads are using here, where they go on to rank the professor, so everyone picks their professor based on what their rankings are. Sort of like Amazon, when you're on Amazon choosing a product, I always read the reviews. So it's like that. Well, that's what Glassdoor is, that for companies. So we had some very unfavorable reviews to the point where we were losing candidates because they were going on there and seeing these negative reviews, and it was hurting us. So we started sort of managing that. Now, you can't remove a post and you can't add a post, but we've been encouraging our new hires who've had a positive interview process to go on there and to post some positive comments that are sort of starting to outweigh our negatives, so our ratings are going up. I'm almost done. I know I've gone way over my time, sorry. There's a couple other main big things that we should be doing. We haven't gotten there yet, but these are my goals for our team in the coming year. Most importantly, I've heard it time and time again, compensation strategy. and transparency. Have y'all heard that buzzword, transparency? That means they want to know how their pay is determined, who's determining it, why they're getting paid what they are. Some companies will even, I think JMU is one of them, goes out and they post scales so you can see where your job fits in, the salary ranges and things like that. Huge for millennials. I read one stat I read is that they would actually rather know where their pay is coming from than receive a raise. Career growth, career path, huge buzzwords for them. They want to grow their career and they want to know how to get there. So that's something we need to work on, as well as a training and development department. They want to continue to learn and they want to continue to grow. The other, two more things and then I'm done. The second to last, social media. As we all know, they're very connected at all times on multiple channels. So your company needs to have a social media at least a manager, someone who's managing that. Ours is terrible. It's embarrassing. I think we have like 3 people who follow us on Facebook. So that's something we really can work on, because those are things that are easy enough to do, you know. But beef up your social media presence. And then the final thing I will say is at the same conference, which really struck with me and something that I really would love for Genzabar to start doing is, again, it's not the money they're interested in. They want to know your story. What is your story and how do they fit in there? So Genzabar has an amazing story. Our founder was part of the Tiananmen Square student demonstration when the students, were massacred by the tanks and the Chinese government. She organized a group to stand up to them, and she fled China, and she fled on a cargo ship. She was one of China's most wanted. She came to the US and she started this company in her basement. She went to Harvard. And so it's an amazing story. And I'm like, we need to be selling this because those are the types of things that they care about. Again, not just the pay. So sorry I went way over, but that's my spiel.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
It's a good spiel.
Oh, thank you.
So as Joel had said, I'm Sandra Quigg, and I think you need a little bit of background to understand who we're recruiting. So Friendship Industries and Able Solutions are 2 companies, businesses with social missions. Primary jobs that we are searching for are relatively unskilled entry-level workers. So unlike Jessica, who's looking for tech development type, we are manufacturing. And we have Friendship Industries, which is more locally known. Friendship Industries provides, the mission of Friendship Industries is to provide employment for persons with disabilities. Able Solutions has a larger mission to provide employment for people with barriers to employment, which is a wide range. When we talk about diversity, that's it, that whole box. And currently, Friendship Industries, we are not recruiting employees for Friendship Industries. We are only recruiting employees for Able Solutions. And the model that we are using is we're trying to create a more integrated, inclusive environment by focusing on Able Solutions. And the entry-level jobs that we are looking for are contract packaging. So we're taking our customers' items that they have produced, and we are repackaging them into a format that ends up retail ready. So that's sort of the focus for us. As far as recruiting and talent acquisition for that pool of people, it's a local search, so we focus on the Virginia Employment Commission. We do use Indeed.com. And we do look for staff positions, and what we're focusing right now on is selling our story, because we've found no matter what age you are, there is some need at that low, unskilled, entry-level position for money, and that is of primary concern to that group. However, we can't compete on the per-hour basis with some of some of our competitors. We can't compete in the arena of money, so what we're trying to determine is what differentiating factors do we bring to the table? How can we provide progress and enrichment that might go above and beyond what you're going to find at, say, a processing plant, which are one of ours. So in brief, that's kind of where we're looking right now.
Thank you. As Joel introduced me, I'm Sandy Hernandez. I chair the Diversity Council for Harrisonburg-Rockingham Chamber of Commerce, and I also work in the Community Development Department doing I'm the Community Development Specialist. I'm not officially representing DuPont Community Credit Union today, but so what we have realized what in my work is that the demographics change a lot through, so our area goes from Winchester down to Bath County. So as you go up and down the valley, you know, I think we all, if you live here, you travel down 81 all the time. So as you go up and down 81, you realize that the demographics kind of change as you're going down or up. And one thing that we've realized and that we've come to, it's I think a really a good problem to have is to realize that as we're increasing our membership, as we go up, there are people in the membership base that have different needs, and that we are now trying to see how we can cover those needs. One of them being, as you know, you go up in Harrisonburg and in Mount Jackson, there are people that don't speak English, maybe as well as, you know, people down in Waynesboro. And so we're trying to see how we can meet the need of the community while also, you know, hiring people that have the personality, the skills, the education that we're looking for. So that has been a neat new, I don't want to say problem, a neat new challenge that we have faced. And as part of the Diversity Council, we have also realized that there's not so many people that are attending that council as we would like, and we are trying to see how we can increase people from membership, you know, to the Diversity Council, maybe from the membership base of the Chamber of Commerce. So my interest in diversity and inclusion actually stems from a personal place where when I started in the business world, I realized that sometimes I would walk into a room and be the only person that looked like me and that came from where I came from. As I said earlier, I grew up in Mexico City, so I am from parents who are from two different countries. And so my mom's from the US, my dad's from Mexico. And so I'm very much, I feel like I'm from two different worlds that I am so very blessed to be from. So sometimes when I have walked into a room and been part of meetings or been part of committees or you know, different groups, and I have realized that I'm the only person who maybe is from a different ethnicity or maybe speaks a different language or even is a woman, I have been really you know, puzzled because I know I'm not the only one out there. And so I have felt the need to promote diversity, to say, you know, there are voices that it's very important to hear them and hear what they have to say and, you know, include them in your company or in your committee or on your board.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. So all of you really touched on sort of the first question I was going to talk about, which was sort of some of the hiring challenges you're currently dealing with, whether it be through community, through you know, integrating different individuals with disabilities, and hiring high-tech skilled labor from a tech company. So I'll sort of move beyond that and won't have us go back over that one. But so there's sort of a sense of you guys are in very different industries, very different focuses, but you've got some common interest on hiring people, obviously. But so if I can say, Sandra and Sandy, I think you guys are more focused on in your organizations of serving the communities you're in per se, where I think, Jessica, your organization is more of a business-to-business support. Would that be accurate?
Well, higher education
Okay.
institutions are our clients. So.
Okay, but not necessarily directly to say like a banking customer or an
Correct.
individual, more of a bigger organization. So the question I have for you, and you can answer in any order that you want, is when you look at the responsibilities that the employees have in your organization at working with your customers, whether it be big organizations or individual customers, how does that change your approach to the employees and how you train them, develop them, and have them be successful in their jobs for your company?
So we have, we're an interesting mix because our focus for impacting our employees' lives is our mission, and that's local. Our customers are worldwide, and so I think when we're hiring people, we need to make sure and explain that that we are a local business with a local mission impact. However, your customer service skills are extremely important because the products that we are making end up at Costco or Barnes & Noble or wherever. So having them, it's a bit like transparency, having them understand the whole supply chain and how they fit in that is what all companies need to do, sort of the bottom up. If everyone understands what that end goal is and if that's part of your training, you're all going to be more successful. So I would say for us, it's that bottom up, everybody has a place, even though we're on an assembly line and it looks like what you're doing is not important. It's that end product and having everybody buy into that end product. So, did that answer it? Did I answer it?
So one thing that we have faced in DCCU is that we have, as I was saying earlier, a large membership that or a large part of our community that needs financial institution services, and they have joined DCCU as members. And so you can't just go out and hire 100 new people immediately. So one thing that we came up as a creative solution was to offer basic Spanish classes for some of our retail staff that are English speaking. We had a pilot program. We partnered up with Skyline Literacy in the Valley. I don't know how many people are familiar with Skyline Literacy, but we had a very, very skilled professor. He was from Honduras, and he came in and taught in the mornings. We had two mornings a week for 6 weeks, and it was a class of 10 people that are member representatives or member advisors, something that in other institutions you might call a teller. And they went and they were so dedicated, and the professor taught them some basic words. And honestly, when we were setting up the program, I thought that the expectation would be for people to be able to come in and be greeted like everybody else is greeted, and so with a hello, and we offer our members coffee or water, and so would you like some coffee or water, and then just wait a second while somebody else can come and assist you. So I thought that would be the max expectation. But after 6 weeks, we had several member representatives that were opening accounts. So they had learned enough words to string together a whole sentence that maybe it wasn't exactly grammatically correct, maybe they were pronouncing some words a little bit different, but it was enough for the people that were coming in that previously couldn't communicate to be able to get their point across. And I have family members that are deaf. I have family members that don't speak English as well. And just being able to go into a place and someone speaks sign language, or someone took 3 years in high school and can kind of understand what you're saying, that just means so much to the person. And I can tell you, as part of the immigrant community in Harrisonburg and in the Valley, references go a long way. Mm-hmm. And so if we have a good experience with a business in the area, or we feel welcomed, we will go and tell our family. We have had people come in with their cousins, their mom, dad, they bring their kids. After they opened an account, they had a good experience, they bring the rest of their people, So it is just, it was a really cool thing to see that just offering a small 6-week course that in the grand scheme of things could have been seen as something very small, it actually has made a huge difference. And the people that went through through that class, it was the pilot program, but people that went through that class have been asking for, please, can we do a phase 2 class, because it was so helpful. So that was also so that's been something that we have done that's really, really cool. But kind of tying that in too, it is a smart business practice to be able to offer products and services for the most amount of people to be able to take advantage of that. I think that all of us could always use some more customers, and so when you offer products and services that can fit a large amount of people, sometimes you can have your own business also benefit from that.
That's a great example, because you're empowering your employees to do their job very well, but then they're also able to serve a broader group of the population and be better customer advocates, if you will.
Yes.
So you'll see the bottom line impact as well too. So that's a great example. Is there any other different approaches or changes that you all are making in your organizational strategy or your approach to bringing staff in? You talked a little bit about millennials and some of the change there. Is there anything else, any other generational groups, any other approaches that you guys are taking a different approach to pull people in?
Well, we're doing something similar to what Sandy said regarding diversity is almost the easy part, it's the inclusion. And so part of that customer service training is having people feel included in the whole process. And we are in the middle of filling out a strategic plan, which will include some ways to create meaningful engagement. So if folks don't have a GED, how can we plug them into that? Can we provide some, and that's part of what I was saying earlier regarding providing some progress or pathways. So if they don't have a GED, how can we plug into that to make it available during the workday, because transportation's another huge issue. So you're trying to plug into all the community resources available and figure out how do you make this person successful, because again, the more successful your employee is, the more successful the company is. And you want to have that inward progress. And for us, we're okay, part of our mission is you get to a certain point and then we can be your excellent reference to go on to the next job. So we sort of consider ourselves that stepping stone, but we need to provide some of the tools so that people, language is huge, so can we provide some? So we're in the middle of figuring out some of those things.
And do you find that there's a lot of those individual things you need to do for Bob to be successful? He needs transportation. Jim needs this or that on his daily work is different than transportation. Do you have a lot of those individual situations, or are there some common themes that the whole workforce needs?
Both.
Okay.
So we can't be all things to all people. So that's where we try very hard to work with groups like the Chamber. How can we plug this individual into something that they need? And the base level, people need safety and stability. And so you can't be a successful employee if you don't have those. So what groups do we have here that can help with that? And then overall, what are those job competencies? And that's where, as a group, we can look at everyone. And if you want to go work at Dynamic Aviation, we've looked at their job competencies, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. So as a group, how can we look at that and provide that skill level? So.
Good. Anything else? Or you guys want to switch to another question? So let's talk a little bit about sort of your industry impacts. So you all are sort of in different industries, different focuses. Is there anything within the greater industry? You talked a lot about your recruiting conference that you went to recently. From an industry, whether it be compliance, regulatory, anything else that really impresses upon, we need this type of employee, or we need to really train them this way. Is there anything within your industry that's driving some of your talent acquisition, or how you actually work with your employees?
I mean, I think what's driving ours is the extreme demand for software engineers. Every company now almost needs them. Almost every company has an app or a website. So we're competing over for a small group of people. I tell everyone I know, if you've got kids in high school who are going into college, tell them to major in computer software, because those kids are picking their jobs and their salaries when they graduate. So I think that,
But hopefully they're not that interested in the salary.
Exactly. That's why they're looking at all those other things. So yeah, I think just the nature of the computer software industry it just affects everything we do.
Mm-hmm. Are there any positions within your organizations that are fairly difficult to hire for, that are that highly specialized or hyper competitive?
Not entirely. Again, when we start talking about staffing positions, it gets into good manufacturing practices. We're audited by the Food and Drug Administration. We have our document destruction services, so we're audited by the National Association of Information Destruction. And for our rehabilitation services, we're audited by the Commission on the Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. And then we have a government contract where we're audited by the Department of Defense and Ability One. So, so from we got a lot. Take your pick. It's like deck of cards. Yeah. Pick one. Yeah. From a recruitment standpoint, really, we're looking for those entry-level jobs, and our job is to get them to be more aware of safety, quality. We have created a safety committee, and we talk about inclusion. It is now turning into, now that we've established it, a employee-driven safety committee, which again then exposes people to what's really behind all this. And again, then we're passing along a very well-equipped employee. Mm-hmm. But for the jobs that we are hiring, that's not entirely our focus.
I know that for us, it's been a challenge trying to find several bilingual employees in all areas where we have branches. You know, we don't require more than a high school diploma necessarily. You know, if we find the person has the personality and the professionalism and the drive, you know, it's not necessary to go to college for a lot of our positions. Some of them, of course, but a lot of ours, you don't have to. But one thing that has been somewhat of a challenge is finding bilingual people. And I don't just mean Spanish and English. You know, we have, I think last I heard, it was over 50 languages spoken in Harrisonburg City Public Schools. And so as the demographics change, also the need for different languages also change. So we have had trouble finding that. I know, as someone who grew up bilingual, I know that when I was in Mexico, when my family was in Mexico, my dad would always try to push my mom to speak to us in English. So we would always grow up with English. And then when we moved here, my dad was the one that was speaking to us in Spanish so that we could keep the Spanish. And I feel like I just graduated from being a child. So I remember those days very clearly of being frustrated that my parents would you know, force me to write a journal entry in Spanish every day, or, you know, those kinds of things. But now that I'm where I am, it is so crucial to, if you have access to a different language or different language learning, to keep that up, because it is so important once you go into the workforce. And it has opened so many doors for me. So that is something that we kind of struggle with, finding individuals who are bilingual and also, you know, read and write in different languages. But I also do want to emphasize that sometimes diversity doesn't necessarily mean people from different ethnicities. Sometimes diversity, you know, means maybe you have a a team that is predominantly male, and just adding, some different voices into the crowd. What can change, and can you reach even different groups of people by, adding different voices, and even honestly avoiding catastrophes. I think there was a commercial a few months ago, a Pepsi commercial, where some people's voices weren't heard, and there was the discussion of, if there were people on the team for that commercial that maybe would be able to offer some input, this would have been avoided. So I think sometimes as companies we can even save money or controversy by just adding different voices into the mix.
Great response. So we're at about time where we want to give you all time to go to your next session. So I'll open up if the group has any questions. We'll give a little Q&A time. If not, I've got a few other questions I can hammer them with. Otherwise, any questions that the group has that you all would like to ask the panel?
I initially, and I think I can't remember your name. Was it Friendship? When you were talking about you work with disabled and people with barriers, and I think you defined, I wasn't sure what you meant with the barriers. So you're talking about people that may have don't have transportation to get to work, people that don't have GED. Is that what you're referring to when you talk about people with barriers?
So, yeah, barriers could be some of the things that we typically think of, but it's even more broad. Low education, low income, English as second language, new to the country, former felony. So it runs the gamut. Mm-hmm.
What was that digital interview site or software you were talking about?
It's called HireVue, HireVue.
Hopefully I won't use it anytime soon.
Frank's now
Yeah.
interested. His
It's-
interest.
I can't say enough good things about it. I think it's been life-changing for us from a recruitment standpoint.
And from one of ours, just, consider this one of my pitches, but we do offer job coaching for companies that are interested in providing employment for this in particular would be persons with disabilities, which disabilities is also visible and invisible disabilities. So people, mental illness is a huge segment of our population. But providing employment, we do job coaching where we have a Friendship Industries staff member who works with a person to find a job, get hired, and then they work sort of as an interpreter between the employee and the employer to maintain that job. So for those companies interested in trying out some or broadening their diversity aspects, you can try job coaching as a way to increase that. And I would also encourage people, I sort of touched on it, but investing in your lower level people to get into leader-member exchange theory. If you've read anything on that what you're really doing is focusing on how, we'll just say a crew leader is being transparent and providing each employee with the information they need, and then the employee feeling safe enough to say back, I like this, I'd like to learn more about it, so that you're meeting each person's needs in a professional manner, so you're touching more employees. And it's a theory, but I think it's very applicable to when we're talking about diversity. And again, more importantly, the how of diversity is the inclusion. And Sandy touched a little bit on that as well, regarding making people feel a part of things.
Mm-hmm. Good. Any other questions from the group? If not, thank you both, or all three, for your time, Jessica, Sandy, and Sandra. Good job.
My name is Sandra Quigg. I'm Director of Organizational Sustainability at Friendship Industries and Able Solutions. And I'm here today to talk about diversity and inclusion in the workplace for the Chamber of Commerce. Well, I think it's a great event. I think the Chamber came up with a good idea to have classes. And I learned that there are many different layers to finding diversity and implementing inclusion in the workplace. So having the panelists from Genzabar and DuPont Community allowed me to learn about a couple different tools that we might be able to implement in an entirely different way for a different audience, and learning about how different people's target audiences, who are you trying to recruit and why are you trying to recruit them? Using those tools in a different way may be beneficial. So, for the Chamber's Diversity Inclusion event, I would encourage people to look at diversity as an investment in their business. You're going to get a great return on investment. It's an employee's market, so it would benefit all businesses to figure out how we can increase the breadth of the market that we're looking at, not just think about one person, but think about age, gender, the whole ball of wax, and that's going to help. And then putting that in terms of inclusion in your company. One way that companies can look at increasing diversity within their workplace is by contacting Friendship Industries to talk to one of our job coaches. One way Friendship Industries helps other companies increase their diversity programs, we provide job coaching, where a job coach comes into your company and works with an employee and helps them interview and then maintain that job. So if you're interested in that type of increase in your business, you can talk to someone at Friendship Industries.
So my name is Sandy Hernandez. I work for DuPont Community Credit Union. I do community development for the company. I am also chair of the Diversity Council for the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Chamber of Commerce. And I recently became involved in New Bridges Immigrant Resource Center as the newest board member. It went really well. I think that it is so very important for today's economy and also for businesses to stay relevant, to be able to talk about diversity and inclusion, and to be able to, as a company, decide to go forward with hiring and including all types of people into their company. And it's also very important to keep in mind that diversity has different faces. So it doesn't necessarily have to be ethnic diversity. It can be gender diversity, sexual orientation diversity, even lower, different socioeconomic classes diversity. And so just as long as there are differences in your group, that there's a variety of viewpoints, I think that encompasses diversity. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting to hear from the other panel members or participants as well. Genzabar and Friendship Industries have a lot of really cool things going on, and there were some participants in our discussions that brought up some really important questions, such as if my company diversifies or makes it a very important goal to diversify, would we lose maybe some stakeholders? Would some people that were previous supporters of my company, would they, decide to fall behind because I have moved past and I'm too progressive? And so it was very interesting to kind of talk about the differences or the different challenges that can come up if, one decides to take a more proactive approach to diversity. But I think that we can all agree that the world is changing, and so we need to change with it. Well, the one I mentioned a second ago, that was a really good question asked. Another question was people were finding it a little bit difficult to, where they were asking, where do you go to, hire or look for a diverse workforce? And I think, again, as I said, sometimes diversity doesn't necessarily have to come with maybe a difference of country of origin, but it can also come with, do you have a workforce that is very predominantly male? Go out of your way to try to talk to women that are trying to go into that industry, or make the place a little bit more accepting or inclusive of differences. And sometimes people have been doing something a certain way for decades, and they are stuck in their ways, and we all don't like to be told that we need to change. But sometimes a little bit of training goes goes a long way. So being able to tell your employees, I know that things have been done a certain way for a while, but we need to learn how to interact with different people, and we need to learn how to be welcoming and inclusive to different people, because that is honestly the way that the company can stay afloat. Honestly, sometimes Google is your best friend. So if you have a question that you aren't sure how to, approach somebody or ask, or should I shake their hand or should I not shake their hand? Sometimes typing that question into Google, you can, save yourself a lot of embarrassment. But also, if you're looking for ways to become involved, the Harrisonburg-Rockingham Chamber of Commerce Diversity Council, we meet every third Monday during the afternoon at 12 o'clock noon in the Chamber building in Harrisonburg. And we're always looking for participants and people that are very passionate about diversity. You don't have to be a chamber member to join. And so we are always looking for that. In other ways, I know that Facebook, there's a lot of pages of Harrisonburg activism or Harrisonburg diversity that you can join.
Hi, my name is Jessica Brown, and I work in the HR department at Genzabar, which is a local computer software company. Our headquarters are in Boston, Massachusetts, but we do have an office here in Harrisonburg. And I was invited to speak on the diversity panel here by the Chamber. So I served on the panel today with two other lovely ladies speaking about our recruiting efforts. I really appreciated the opportunity to serve on the panel today because of the two ladies that I got to speak with. And I feel like we each represented such different aspects of diversity, and our recruiting efforts varied so much that it was interesting to hear such different perspectives. A little bit different focus than what I'm usually focused on in my recruiting efforts at a software company. So the main focus of my talk today on diversity was actually the millennial population and targeting them in your recruiting efforts. So I gave many examples of what my company has been doing in order to target that population, and as well as examples of things we need to be doing to target them in the future. And so I hope if the one takeaway that the audience got from my talk was using some creative tools and strategies to try and attract this extremely important population, because they now make up more than half of the labor market.
I'm Greg Godsey. I'm with Union Bank and Trust. I'm the local commercial market executive, also chair of the Chamber of Commerce this year. So working with that, and just finished up as past chair of the Shenandoah Valley Economic Partnership. So involved in a lot of organizations in Harrisonburg, Rockingham. Well, I think, a lot of our members and we opened it up to non-members also got educated on a lot of different topics. I think the different panel sessions we had were relevant topics as far as marketing your business and health insurance. We had a session on that. We had a session on diversity and HR in the workplace. So just a lot of good information for our members. The CEO roundtable was very enlightening, hearing what some of our local manufacturers and service companies are facing as far as economic challenges, labor force challenges. Now that we're pretty full on employment in our area, our companies are starting to have problems finding folks to carry on their business, and so some challenges there. I think in our 902 members in the chamber, we have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas, and Harrisonburg is kind of the hub for the Valley of Virginia, and folks coming from West Virginia to get expertise, professional advice, come here for retail and shopping, cultural activities, dining, you name it. there's a lot going on in Harrisonburg and Rockingham County. Well, I would just encourage the folks that weren't able to make it today to hopefully come to this event next year. This is the first year we've done it this way, and it was, kind of a learning curve. And so hopefully next year it'll be bigger and better and more interactive. And I think we learned a lot this year, and it was, I think, a big success. But I think we can do it even bigger next year, and hopefully get greater attendance and get folks to come out and learn and network and get to see what's going on in Harrisonburg, Rockingham County.
Andy Van Hook, I'm with Appeal Production. I'm also on the Chamber Board. Today we're here at Connections, an event the Chamber has done for a number of years, but we've kind of rearranged the format this year. In the past, it's been a lot about kind of what's going on in the economic state of Virginia, and then a trade show the second part of the day. This year we decided to try to mix it up and have some breakout sessions with some informational things where people could come and learn more about different topics that they may have interest in. I think that, to me, what's been really exciting about it has been the attendance, because I wasn't, being part of the planning aspect of this, wasn't really sure what the attendance was going to be. And to find out that there was 80 plus people here for a lot of the day, that was really exciting, to know that the new direction excited people, made people want to come out and see what was going on and to have an opportunity to learn. And I think another good thing was that it was broken up in such a way that you could come for a session. If you needed to leave and go do something else, you could do that as well. And then you could come back to another session. So I think it's been a really good day today. I think this is a great venue here at Festival at JMU. The way it's set up, the breakout sessions are kind of around the center area in the main ballroom at Festival where the trade show is set up. So throughout the day, there was 4 sessions an hour per hour, and they were all over this building, but then you could always kind of come back to the hub of where the trade show part was. And at the end of the day, there's trade show and then the business after hours. So it's been I think it's a great opportunity, a great venue to have that kind of thing. And also it gives you the space to do it in. It's comfortable, it's nice, and it's just a great opportunity to be on JMU's campus, which is always beautiful.